Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, I want to thank you for stopping by. Appreciate any likes or comments, subscriptions of course, anyone would like to toss me. But what we're here to do today is replace that alternator, which for me I just told you guys like 12 seconds ago, but for you it'll be a week, or probably a week. This is my 99 TJ. I just finished up a intake or an exhaust manifold replacement on it. So if you want to check those videos out, they should be posted and ready for you to review. And as such, I already have the Serpentine belt off because you have to take it off to remove the power steering pump to do the manifolds. But if you don't know how to do that, it's really straightforward on a TJ, or at least this TJ, I don't know every year. This is the tensioner pulley. You release that nut or that bolt, you back it off a few turns. That actually, this is a manually adjustable belt tensioner. So you release that bolt a few turns, that unlocks the adjuster screw, and that's the adjuster screw. And then you actually, with the belt off it, I can't remember, run it either down, in or out, and that'll move this pulley and that'll loosen or tighten the belt. So that's all you need to know about getting the belt off. If you want to see a belt routing, go back to part 1 of the manifold replacement video, and you'll see I did a pretty good video suite of that here, which I will also need here in a minute. But right now the job is to get the alternator off. I think there are just those 2 bolts holding it on. Fortunately, I already have the new one, so I can go cross-reference it, and I can also kind of look around on the new one for what the wiring looks like. And I also already have the negative battery cable disconnected. So I will get my things together and come back to you when I got my research done, I guess. Maybe I should have done that ahead of time. So here's our new guy. I went with a brand new, not remanufactured, and I went with a Remy. Remy, or Delco Remy as they may have once been known to some people. I've been in the auto electronics game forever. So I thought this would probably be the best option. It was not horrendously expensive. I think it was like maybe 100 to 140 bucks. And if I would have seen this on it, I would not have bought it. Chinese alternators, Chinese starters are almost always junk. I'm hoping that this being a once good brand, that is no longer the case. I also think this thing had a lifetime warranty. I'm not sure. I bought it through Rock Auto, so who knows. I've also had it too long to send it back, which I may have if I would have paid attention to that sticker earlier. Not at all impressed with Chinese auto electronics. Anyhow, moving past all the complaining, because it has nothing to do with your alternator. It's looking like it is just the 2 bolts. I'm going to assume this is the bottom and this is the top. And it's looking like on the back we have a pretty simple arrangement. Just the primary charging wire goes on the stud, and then there's a small connector. I completely forgot to tell you guys why I'm actually changing this thing. The charge is just fine actually, but I think the bearings have been going out of it for the last couple of years. In the wintertime I'll be driving this thing when it's cold and it'll sound like it's supercharged. It'll just whine. And I actually started it up to move it after it's sat in the garage for probably a couple months at that point without running, and it just squealed the belt. And of course I tried to film that for you like a month or 2 after that, and it was fine. It appears on this thing that there is enough slack in this harness that goes to it that I can probably unbolt it and just like set it down on the motor mount underneath this AC hose and disconnect the wiring. So I think I just have to pull those 2 bolts out of the front and jiggle it off of the bracket and set it down over yonder and take the wires off from the back. And I can't tell which way the that little push to connect clip is supposed to release. If you pull it or push it, I can't see anything, so I don't know. We'll find out. So I got the bolts out of the alternator on it. This is the upper bolt, and there's a casting back here that's presumably threaded. Now comes the complaining about Chrysler or Daimler or both. Probably Chrysler is my guess. This thing being a 99 is a Daimler Chrysler. Anyway, this bottom one actually has a nut on the back that it feels like there's a hole in the air conditioning casting that you actually have to reach in with a socket to get to. And I also can't tell if this thing can't make up its mind whether or not it's metric or standard, meaning the whole Jeep. Everything else on the thing I've touched is metric, except the manifold bolts, which are 3/8 English. So anyway, these are 15 millimeter, both of them. That's what I use to take them out. But so is this guy. So to take this thing off, you need two 15 millimeter sockets and two ratchets. Just stupid design, you know? Anyway, so there's a first annoyance. It's gonna be just not much fun at all to get this nut started again, I feel. But we'll see, I could be wrong. Either way, keep that in mind. You can't, I suppose maybe you can get on this one with a wrench, but it won't be much fun. So be prepared. I probably haven't mentioned it before, but I have a pretty big fan running because it's super hot and I'll die if I shut it off. So you're probably hearing some wind noise from that, and I apologize. But anyway, the alternator is off. It's out of its hidey hole now. And I've got its face up toward us. And that is the connector I'm not sure about. It looks like that could be pushed or pulled. It could go either way, and the new one doesn't really give me any insights either. The stud is obviously no big deal. So I'm going to have to experiment with that guy for a little bit and get back to you. For my next thank you Chrysler, 11 millimeter and I think 7/16 both fit this nut like crap, but 10 millimeter and 3/8 don't fit it. I tried to put the 11 millimeter on it on my my 3/8 impact, and it just rounded off the nut. So I have no clue what size it's supposed to be. I ended up taking it off with a small adjustable wrench. The other connector actually has I don't know if it's melted white stuff, or it might be hard to see on camera, but that stuff doesn't look right. This alternator may have had quite a bit of heat in it from whatever bearing is going out of it. But to release this guy, you push down the back pretty significantly hard. I had to push it with a screwdriver, and then the only thing you can really hold on to pull it out is the wires themselves, which I don't like doing. But that's what it took. I just hope that connector's not melty and gonna cause me problems down the road. So I got the new one in position, and it's worth telling you guys, you gotta pull them out through the back. It's kind of a pain if you have AC. And this is a 4-liter, by the way. 2.5s may be different. You kind of have to flex it around this hose to get it out. And the nut on the back of the new alternator most certainly M10. And it most certainly was not M10 on the old one. I mostly stopped just to give you guys a little pointer here. Right there, that is actually a punch. For driving pins that I've just slid through the hole in the casting and then the hole in the alternator. So now it'll, kind of swing around, and I don't have to hold it anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it lined up at the bottom and get the bottom nut bolt started in it, and then I can take that pin out and fight with that nut and bolt combo on the top. But yeah, anything you can do to help yourself out there, to slip a screwdriver through it or anything like that, is going to help you. Just so happens that that punch in particular is almost the slip fit in the holes, so it turned out perfect. Well, it's on there. Got her all bolted down and everything. That upper nut and bolt really wasn't as bad as I feared it would be. Of course, anti-seized both bolts, especially that bottom one, because it goes into a casting, an aluminum casting. But something I have done wrong, and it's going to be hard for you guys to see, but you'll have to take my word for it, is I've got this main charging wire clocked wrong. It's got a little tab on it that locks it in 90-degree rotations, and I've got it 90 degrees wrong. So right now it's hard up against the AC compressor casting, and that would be bad for this to rub and go down the road and chew through, because that would burn the Jeep down. So I'm going to have to back that nut off the back of the alternator and clock that around to a safer orientation and tighten it back down. So just be wary of that. Okay, I've actually managed to get you a shot of it there. That is much better now. You can see now it's pointed, kind of down the way. Before it was pointed straight up. Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, you see that casting right above it. Let's say right now it's pointed at I don't know, 5 o'clock. It was pointed at more like 11 or 10 before, and that was no good at all. And so now we're good. So there it is, installed up in its new home. Only thing left to do is put the belt back on it, and I'm actually going to put a new belt on it. And before I do that, I want to talk to you guys for just a minute about Serpentine belts. The great Serpentine belt discussion. It's a pretty short discussion, really. You see how this belt is really shiny and glazed looking? You know, you don't really see any cracks or anything on it on this side, but it's starting to get slick. And you can see like some rust from the pulleys and stuff has accumulated on it. And actually that's not just pulley rust, what you see there. You might be able to see it on camera better than I can. Like, quit moving, yeah. It's actually starting to get down to the fibers of the belt a little bit. Basically when they start getting really shiny like this, I start thinking about putting a new one on the inside. And this is a Goodyear Gatorback belt. That's why it has those serrations. That's not a continuous weave or a continuous rib. I'll talk about that more in just a second here. On the inside, what you'll almost always see, and now you can, are all those little cracks in there. They're normally much worse on not Gatorback belts, like belts that have a continuous rib. You start getting all those cracks in there and it starts getting shiny, it's time to go. Time for a new one. That's my opinion anyway. Some people will run these things forever. There's really no need for that. Even these being like a premium grade belt, I think are like, this one I actually think I ordered from Summit because it was the best deal I could get at the time, and it was like 40 bucks. The replacement I got from Rock Auto, and I think it was on closeout or something for like, I don't know, $20 or 12 bucks or something. Goodyear does not make the Gatorback belts anymore. It appears they have either merged companies or sold their name or whatever to Continental. Continental is now where you go for that style of belt. And you can see this guy's not all shiny. It's still got all those little nodules and stuff on it. It's a brand new belt. So anyway, I've been running Goodyear Gatorback / now Continental Elite Poly V belts for, gosh, probably since about 2001. And I really like them. Nobody's paying me to say this. I've been just but what I like to use. I bought these with my own money and all that. I started using these because I have a long history of having very high output alternators on my vehicles. I'm a car audio guy. It's okay if you're not. It's okay if you absolutely hate that. But anyway, I put I think 210 amp alternator on I had a 97 Olds 88 LS, which doesn't sound cool, and in a way it wasn't, but I made it as cool as could be. Anyway, put a 210 amp alternator on that car, and I think it shipped with 130, and I had I guess 1400 watt stereo in it that would draw about 120 amps. By today's standards, if you are a car audio guy, that's really, really small stuff. But back in those days, with the Class A amps we had and everything, that was a lot of power. I wanted to make sure I wouldn't have belt slip with that giant alternator. So I bought what I felt was the best belt I could, and that was this guy, and never had a problem. That car always charged perfectly. Never had any light dimming or anything like that. Belt was always quiet. I've since had them on 4 or 5 vehicles. This is the second one I've had on the Jeep. They seem to wear well. This one, the one I'm replacing, I put on I think 7 years ago, and probably has 40 or 50,000 miles. And again, this belt has life left in it. I could keep running it. I just don't like to. These were not that expensive. And a lot of the miles on the old belt were winter miles. I actually ended up with a couple of jobs that require me to do quite a lot of traveling. So I was driving the Jeep like 400, 500 miles a week in the middle of like Arctic cold weather. And super cold weather's hard on rubber and everything. So that belt probably has 20,000, less than 32 degree Fahrenheit miles on it. So it's just time. The Ford, which shall not be named over there, originally came with like a 73 amp alternator. I hand built, like I actually put it together myself, I think it's a 210 amp alternator. So it came with a 73, and I made it 120 amps larger. It is also running one of these Gatorback belts, and I actually have, on those cars, people like to install underdrive pulleys to free up engine horsepower from the accessories, so they intentionally spin the alternator slower and the water pump slower. I actually have an overdrive pulley on the alternator on that car. So it has over twice the alternator it shipped with, plus I'm spinning it faster. And this belt has never complained. They don't squeal, it just works. In fact, that car charges at almost 15 volts, to the point that I think maybe I got a bad voltage regulator or something. But yeah, it's nuts. It's got an electric fan it never shipped with. It's like a 80 or 90 amp fan. It's got a modestly big stereo in it. No problems at all with belt slip ever. So these are the belts I like to use. You don't have to use these. I've also run, you know, the $9 Value Craft whatever belt on, you know, stuff I didn't care about, like the Blazer is a good example of one that would get a absolute dirt cheap Rock Auto clearance belt, but the stuff that I intend to have around for a while, I like to run these. So anyway, that is the big V-belt discussion, or the big poly V-belt discussion, I guess. Why I like to run the belts I do, and why I'm replacing this one. Your mileage may vary. Anyhow, let's go get the new one thrown on. And there it is, all done. These with manually adjustable belts. I like to have like 3/4 to an inch or so of slack in them. This one might be, say I'm probably moving the camera as much as I am the belt. This one might be just a little bit tight, but being that it's brand new, it'll probably loosen up just a touch pretty shortly. But the last thing I always like to do after I put a new belt on is I like to manually roll the engine over and watch all the ribbed pulleys. The power steering pump's ribbed, the alternator's ribbed, the AC's ribbed, and the crank, crank is ribbed. And I like to just turn it over manually and watch all that stuff and make sure, you know, except the fan hub, fan hub's all I can really get to, is slipping on the belt. So maybe I don't have this belt tight enough after all. I don't know. Hate to get it much tighter than it is. But anyway, I like to do that just to make sure the belt is truly tracked in all the grooves. And I think what I'm going to do instead is I'll just, when I start it up, I'll just pay careful attention to it, because there's really nothing else to get on easily here. Power steering has a pressed on pulley, the AC has a little tiny bolt in the middle that is probably not for that. The alternator's a giant nut I don't easily have a socket for, the crank's hard to get to. Oh, I know it won't turn, it's in gear. Well, that was a noob mistake, but that still didn't solve the problem. Anyway, I don't want to get this belt any tighter. I think it's plenty tight enough already. I will just keep a careful eye on it. I guess the only last thing to do is touch off the negative terminal and see if we have giant sparks. Nope. No giant sparks. The normal expected amount of sparks. So that is where I'm going to leave this one. I want to thank you guys again for stopping by, and I appreciate any likes or comments you have. Of course, I'd love to have you as a subscriber if you're new here, which, you know, almost everybody always is new here. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll try and answer them the best I possibly can. This is Saddington Bear. He's our channel mascot and project supervisor, and he would like you to know I try to make a project video every week. You might be interested in some of these other videos. Take a look and let me know what you think. Thanks again for watching. Really appreciate it.